Thank you for joining SCORE Maine today, and welcome to our 60-minute webinar on DIY SEO for small businesses. SCORE is a resource partner of the Small Business Administration. We help clients at all stages of the business life cycle from pre-start to exit. That includes workshops just like this one, but also one-on-one mentoring with a business leader in your community. I want to say thank you to the Maine Technology Institute, our fiscal sponsor for this workshop, for making this event possible. And I would also like to thank Corey of WanderWeb for presenting today. Thank you so much, Corey. We look forward to responding to your questions as they arise. When you have a question, please post it in the Q&A panel. And at the end of our presentation today, we will allow everyone to hop on camera so we can have a little bit more of a discussion in Q&A that way. And with that, I will hand it on over to you, Corey. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dan. Hey, everybody. My name is Corey Daigle. I am the founder of a business called WanderWeb. We're located in Maine, and we help nonprofits and health wellness practices get found online. One of the reasons I wanted to present today is, as a new business owner in 2018, I used SCORE resources to start my business along with the Small Business Development Center. And I had a really great experience, and I love to give back. Let's get started. So search engine optimization is like the big mystery, right? It stands for, well, SEO stands for search engine optimization. And what it is in very, very simple terms, it's making it easy for Google to find the information you want to share with your clients or customers when they search for you. So there are a few types of search engine optimization. One is on-page or on-site search engine optimization. There's also location-based search engine optimization. And you may have heard of paid search engine optimization or non-organic search engine optimization, as well as technical search engine optimization. Today, we're going to primarily be discussing on-page and local search engine optimization. The reasons we'll talk about those in particular are technical optimization typically requires a developer, and paid optimization is typically a little bit later or longer into the business before you really start to look for paid optimization. Most businesses start out scrappy and are DIYers. I was. And so we're going to talk about those two types of search engine optimization, have an opportunity for questions at the end of the presentation. Dan is going to bring everyone up and we can have a conversation. And Dan will also give information on how to connect with SCORE if you are looking for support or an advisor. If you could, if I'm going too quickly or too slowly, or I need to speak up, if you could just let Dan know, I would appreciate that. So why is SEO important? Search engine optimization is important because it makes your website more visible. Not only does it make your website more visible, it makes your business more visible. Search engine optimization is how people find you online. And that means if they're finding you easily, you'll have more traffic and more opportunities to reach your customers. I love this fun fact. It's that less than 1% of people go past the first page of Google. And so getting found online, again, is really important. And that's why today we'll be talking about your on-page search engine optimization or on-site and local search engine optimization. Many Maine businesses are local, and so touching on how to get found locally will be a very big part of what we do today. The way search engine optimization works, and let's go back a little bit to come forward. We'll be talking primarily about Google today. There are other search engines. Bing, Facebook is a search engine. Yelp is a search engine. Instagram is now a search engine. Today, we'll be talking primarily about Google. The reason we'll be discussing Google as sort of the flagship of search engine optimization is because most people are searching on Google. People search in other places additionally, but most people search on Google primarily. So how does Google decide what is optimized and what isn't? What Google has is, it's called a spider or a bot. And what it does is reads the internet. It reads every single word on the internet. It crawls all the pages of the internet, of the web, going from site to site, and collects information about the information that's on the internet. And it puts it into a giant library. So Google is essentially a librarian, right? That has all the information in its Google brain. It considers hundreds of ranking factors in deciding how to bring something up. But basically, if you think of, if you went to a library and typed in to Google, the librarian, restaurants near me, right? The librarian, Google, is going to go through a repertoire of all of the restaurants near you and decide which ones to produce. So how do they decide? There are over 200 metrics that Google uses in order to make a decision, and they're constantly in flux. We know a few metrics that are important for any given year, and because Google releases them to us and lets us know. But overall, the recommendation that I have is making your website and your online presence have a really good user experience. And we're going to talk about that today in detail. Okay, so Google then, when you've typed in to the search engine what you're looking for, they decide what to give you for an answer. They want to give the best answer because they want people to keep coming back from Google. So there's like a dings and benefit tally that Google keeps in its back end to decide what to continue to bring up on the internet. Today, we're going to talk about how to optimize for Google search. Any questions coming up at this point, Dan? Okay. So on-page search engine optimization or on-site search engine optimization is setting up your web pages and the content on them so that search engines can read it and your users love it. Two things. So you have to make the content searchable by Google and appealing to your customers. And that leads to knowing the customer. My general rule of thumb for businesses is the business that knows their customer the best will win every time. Okay. So understanding your customer, what questions they're asking, why they're looking for you, what words they're typing in order to find you, where they're looking to find you. Those are really important things for you to understand as a search engine optimizer, or a search engine is what they kind of call us, and really customizing your content and the way it's delivered in a way that your customers are thrilled. So here's how you would do that. We're going to go through the steps of the things that you need to do in order to make search engines find you easily and customers love your content. Okay, so this is kind of a tactical list, and we're going to go through each of them. The first one is using searchable keywords and phrases. And what I mean by that is using keywords that customers would type into a search engine. For example, you're a soap company, right? You make lavender goat milk soap. It's artesian, it's handmade. This is what you do. You sell across the United States, okay? If you were to use soap as your primary keyword, it's very unlikely that you would get found on Google. Why? Because those search engine optimized words are already taken, right? Dove's got soap, Ivory's got soap, right? So they're using those words, and they're also paying for ads to come up on the first page of Google, all right? So when you're looking at Google and you see ad beside the search engine result on the result page, that is a paid promotion. Okay, so when you're thinking about keywords, you kind of need to think about the customers that you're targeting, as well as the competition for the words that are out there. So because soap isn't really going to be a word that you'll ever place for on probably the first 20 pages of Google, you really need to think about, for your artesian lavender soap, well, maybe you could try artesian soap. Maybe you could try lavender soap. those are probably still going to be getting quite a few clicks. So you may want to decide to go after handmade artesian lavender soap or handmade lavender soap or lavender goat milk soap, right? And so that requires a little bit of research to see what your competitors are doing and seeing where there's a gap or an opportunity in the keyword rankings. This is the basis of every bit of online search engine optimization is keyword research. Okay, so understanding the words that people are typing into the search engines in order to find your service or product, and then using those words strategically in your content. And how do you do that? By using words and phrases your customers search for in your content, you'll get found more likely. In particular, we really recommend you use those words in your hero section of your website. And that it's a really key part of your website is the hero section on your landing page or your homepage. That's the part of your website that requires the most attention. It's the money spot on your website. So your hero section is the remember newspapers, the above the fold. So when you got a newspaper, it was sort of anything that was above the fold was the high value news for the day. And then you would unfold the newspaper and read below. Well, consider above the fold what you see when you land on a page before you scroll down. So that above the fold content is your hero section, okay? And understanding what to put on that hero section is really important. And this is crucial for you to understand simply because I see a lot of businesses put non-essential or unclear information in their hero section. You might see a slogan or a tagline or something that describes the business, but really doesn't speak to who you are, what you do, the problem you solve, and who you solve it for. And best practice is the results that you get, right? So on the top section of your website, that hero section, it's incredibly crucial to really spend a lot of time crafting that content to include a keyword, include your customer base, if you can, and the result that they get from working with you or buying your product. My general rule of thumb is you have 3 seconds after someone lands on your website before they will leave or scroll, okay? And that leads me to catchy headlines. And so in your content, you're going to have headlines at the top of every section of your content, right? Those headlines have to be amazing. Their job is to lead your customers, viewers to scroll further onto your website or take an action that you have decided that you want them to do. So it's really important here to write something catchy, clear, compelling, and that gives a clear, concise call to action for what you actually want them to do. It may be that you want them to trust you. It may be that you want them to feel warm and fuzzy. It may be that you want them to click a button. So leading them through that journey with your headlines are very important. From a coding perspective, on the back end of your website, each page of your website, so say you've got a home page, an about page, a services page, a contact page. Each of those pages has an opportunity for a main headline. That in the back end of a website is tagged as an H1, major headline, prime headline, right? Your subheadlines are H2s, should include some keywords, and your bylines are H3. And those can also include keywords. Those are probably the most important pieces of content on your site, because with those tags on the back end of your website, and you can do this with Squarespace, any of them, if you just look, you can even do it in Google Docs and tag different content with the hierarchy. What happens is Google will read that content and understand that it's the most important content on your website. Okay, so we've covered headlines, we've covered your hero section, and sort of really sucked someone in by the eyeballs, right? They're really excited about you. But what got them there? The thing that got customers there often is your meta description. And your meta description is what shows up on the search engine page for results. So you may see on a website, you might search for, again, lavender soap, and 10 different results come up with a tiny little write-up beside it. That's called a meta description. It's the tag used to describe the content on the page. And meta descriptions will appear with the title of your website as well as your URL. And they really do, even though they're not ranked for search engines, they really do have impact on if someone clicks on your site or someone else's, right? The power to help sort of improve your click-through rate, or CTR, you may hear it referred to. So your meta description is sort of like an intro to your business. It's your quick and dirty sales pitch that's not too salesy, right? So aim for about 1 to 2 sentences, and target an emotion if you can, and certainly make it clear about what you want them to do. Every page should have its own separate, different meta description. I also recommend that we optimize websites for alt tags. And what that means is telling Google what your images are. AI is coming up and they're starting to be able to read images. However, we're still tagging images in a way that we're telling Google what we want them, what they mean to Google. Okay. There's also an accessibility opportunity here, which we're not going to touch on today, but for people with disabilities, there are some techniques and strategies around making your website accessible. And one of the main ways to do that is with your alt tags. So the benefit of tagging your images is huge because a lot of people search by photo and video, right? So when you go to Google, if you type in artesian lavender soap, right? And then you click on photos, you'll get photos of artesian lavender soap. You may or may not click into one of those lavender soaps that you'd like to buy or like to learn more about. That's photo or the power of alt tags, all right? If you don't tag your image, it's not going to show up on that page, the lavender goat milk photo page, okay? So the potentials here are huge because people are really searching by images and video. And it is a great boost to your search engine optimization. So adding relevant keywords and phrases to your alt tags is important. Having said this, that does not mean go in and name your image with all of your keywords. What you want to do in this case is name the image strategically if you're naming it for search engine optimization, okay? So in this slide, we've got Mike. This is Mike Toole. He's the owner of ClearPoint Capital. He's a financial advisor. However, let's pretend that we're doing a website for a clothing company. In this case, I probably would name the image gray suit, blue shirt, striped tie, right? Or man in gray suit with blue shirt and striped tie. If I was labeling this image for a eyeglasses company, I would name it man in suit with glasses, right? If I were, and I may even put the brand name of the glasses that he's wearing, okay? But in this case, I am naming this for Michael Toole, ClearPoint Capital Financial Advisor. So that is exactly what I'm going to name the image because the strategy that I'm using is getting Michael Toole found, not selling a suit or selling a pair of glasses or a tie, okay? So deciding the strategy for your images is very important. And understanding the overarching strategy of your website and then reverse engineering your search strategy is crucial. And this is just an example because we could name all of those things will be correct alt tags for this image, but only one of them is going to help you meet your goal. Another really crucial part of search engine optimization is considering the user experience for your customer. And I love this image because this is something that I see a lot is websites with a lot of bells and whistles or really exciting websites or really interesting designs. But does it help meet the goal of the website? And so in this image, you can see that there is a designer who created a park. It's probably the most beautiful park that he's ever created. I don't know, but what I do know is that he didn't consider the way the park would be used because there is a path going directly to where someone wants to go. And as a web designer and someone who's really optimizing for search, that is my focus. And you should be yours as well, is driving the customer, making it easy as possible for them to do what you want them to do or what they want to do in the simplest way possible. Okay. So considering user experience is really, really important for your website. I would almost say that user experience is probably the most important piece of creating a website itself. Another thing that we see often with DIYers is the urge to squish everything together on the website. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the way someone's eyes work when they're online. And it's different than what you would think. So typically when someone's reading something, they will read left to right if they're English, right? They typically will read left to right and then down. So it's left, right, ding, left, right, okay? So when someone reads on the internet on a screen, they don't do that. Readers scroll. They scroll the content, they read top to bottom, okay? So visual hierarchy and putting things in a way that makes a lot of sense is something that you can leverage to get your content more easily read, all right? So something that you may be used to is in school, we wrote papers and we filled it with a lot of words because we needed to meet a word count. In this case, we want to cut out any extraneous words, okay? We want to make the content a little bit narrower as opposed to full screen and allow the eye to skim down. Ways you can do that are with bullets, pulling out important words or things that tell a story really quickly with your headlines, bold or italics. And you can also leave a lot of white space above and below things so that the eye falls to it naturally. Using your images as well. So if I'm, this is a technique I use a lot in design. So I'll grab a picture of someone looking off to the side. And what I do is I actually aim their eyes towards the target that I want my customers to look, right? So that the eyes will track that way. All those little techniques work. If I'm trying to have the eye go to a certain direction, then I'll have them looking in that direction. If I want to establish trust, I have them looking directly into the camera. So there's a lot of different things you can do to improve the user experience and make it easy for your customers to follow your direct, what you're wanting them to do. But something that I will say is try not to squish your content together, add some white space, and then add some more, because I guarantee you probably didn't add enough the first time. And that leads me to making sure your customers know what you want them to do. So be clear about what you would like them to do. Don't assume that your visitors on your website know what you want of them, okay? So if you want them to submit a form, let them know. This is where you submit the form, right? I have a part on my website that says, this is where you click and we talk. And my button has a phone icon on it or a calendar scheduler on it, and it leads to my calendar, right? So making it super clear, whether you want them to submit a form, enter their email, click a button to learn more, tell them that's what you want them to do. Put it in the button. Click here is not a button, call to action, right? Get my free lavender soap sample. That is a call to action, right? Make it incredibly clear for them. Your calls to action should stand out so they're noticed with commanding language that directs the conversation. And so that leads me back to white space. You want to leave some space around it so your eyes fall to the call to action. That's typically what we call a button. And generally you'll want to make the button stand out with color or maybe some animations if you can. All right. We're going to get into local search engine optimization now. We've covered on-page search, and at the end of this seminar, we'll have lots of opportunities to discuss and answer. I'm happy to answer your very specific questions. We're kind of moving from the website now to the non-website kind of things that we can do in order to get you found online. All right, so 99% of people stay on the first page of Google. And most people that are searching for something local, right? Of the people that are searching for a local service or business, over 1 in 4 of them are going to buy a service or product. All right. So you have a very high intent search rate when people are searching locally. Those are considered high value, high intent searches. Local search engine optimization for businesses that are location based, where you can drive foot traffic or you're working with a local clientele, is probably the most valuable thing you can do. I'm going to be really clear about this. It's more valuable than your website. Local search engine optimization for location businesses is more valuable than your website. And we're going to talk about how to do that today. I want you to capture those 1 in 4 searches as a sale. Okay, so 97% of people that search locally are trying to find a local business. All right, 28% of those result in a sale. These are big, important numbers for us to consider. The first thing that every business should have is a Google business page. And what that looks like is that page on the right side of your screen when you're searching that has business hours and the days that they're open and what they do, some of their products, and how to get in contact with the business. That's right on a Google business search page, on a Google search page. This is free to create. And once you have your Google business page, you can get customer reviews. And so the 2 things that I recommend as the most crucial things you can do for a local business that people will be searching for you based on your location are creating your Google business page and then getting reviews. Why are reviews so important? Depending on the age group, up to 90% of people consider online review as good as a personal recommendation. But the overall average is 88% of customers trust reviews as much as a personal recommendation. And trust is such a crucial factor when it comes to making purchase decisions. The more confident your customers feel about your product, the easier your sale is, right? I recently met with a client referral, and because it was a referral, they immediately were like, just send me the contract, I'll sign it, right? That was a really easy sale. Typically, I'm working with leads for a 6 to 12 month period before, where they've warmed up to me over time. But because that person had heard about me, had talked to some of the people that I'd worked with and heard good experiences, they were eager to work with us. So easy to leverage your customer reviews. Claiming your registries is also important. Your business citations. And examples of that are, we just talked about your Google business profile, but there's Bing, claiming your business on Facebook, Yelp. And those are probably the 4 that I typically consider the highest value. So your Google page, your Bing, Facebook, and Yelp. The reason Yelp is so important is because their maps and their reviews are what populate Apple Maps, which leads to Apple Maps is another one, Foursquare, Yellow Pages, and LinkedIn. So I think that every business should at minimum be registered on those registries or have their business pages created in those places. So again, I'll just go through them again. Google, Bing, Facebook, Yelp, Apple Maps, Foursquare, Yellow Pages, and LinkedIn. Another way that you can help with search engine optimization is creating really good content. And what I like to recommend is a good content distribution strategy. So what that would mean is you maybe create a blog or a piece of content, but then you syndicate it across all of those places that I just told you about. So put it on your Google business page, put it on your Yelp profile, share it on LinkedIn, right? So leverage that content in multiple places. There are other strategies that involve your on page by putting your business location on every page of your website, making sure your hours are on your website. And there's a way to do that with something called schema that is a little bit more technical, but just having them on your website, Google will read them and recognize what they are. And of course, if it's not measured, it's not done, right? So looking at your analytics and seeing what's working so you can leverage that and do more of it, and seeing what should be working that isn't so that you can improve it, right? So when it comes to looking at analytics, the basis of looking at analytics, I recommend looking at the user journey or the map of the way your customers go through your website, what page they land on, where they go, how long they spend on your site is important. And the other thing I typically recommend is traffic source. So looking to see where your customers are coming from. Say, for example, you're getting a lot of traffic from Pinterest. Well, you might want to invest a little bit more in your Pinterest strategy, right? Also, if you're getting a lot of traffic from, say, a referral source, someone specific that's sending, or a blog that you created that's sending you a lot of traffic, that might be something that you want to invest more in, like creating more content like that blog. So understanding your analytics is something that you can do to optimize your overarching results with your search engine optimization. Artificial intelligence. I think that this is a huge new topic in digital marketing. It's being used in so many arenas. It's being used in 1,000 different ways in the education world. It really is a game changer. It's changed the way we do things. So I do have some recommendations around using artificial intelligence and for search engine optimization and content creation. For those of you who aren't familiar, there's a couple really good pieces, a couple good tools out there that you can use. There's many, but a good place to start looking is ChatGPT. If you haven't heard of that, you just Google it, right? Search engine optimization. And the other one is Google's Bard, B-A-R-D. So those are two places that you can go to look and start to play around with artificial intelligence if you haven't done it already. My recommendations around AI are, it's great to use to start something as, you know, for the beginning. If you're not a really good writer, but you can edit, it's a great place to get something to start to tweak. It's a great place to put your content in, to organize it and sort it for you. And it's also a great way to get it to break out different pieces of content in a way that search engines would read it. What I don't recommend is typing a prompt into one of these AI search tools or AI tools and then just using that content for a couple reasons. If you haven't edited it, it probably has some pretty big tells, because AI has some words and tools and emojis and functionalities that that is used constantly. And anyone in the industry can recognize it just by looking at it. And that means that Google can recognize it very easily. And Google is penalizing AI generated content. So how do we do this right? One of the things that works really well now is experiential content. And remember, we were talking a little bit about getting reviews and how important reviews are. Case studies are also really important in your content, and really talking about the specifics of problems that were solved with your product or service. So instead of saying, I have the best widget, right? Probably something that would resonate a little bit more would be, my widget helped this person create 5 new widget extensions, and this is the result that they got. And really then using their words about the results that they got. A little bit more of the experiential documentation will go a lot further, and you will stand out against this heavily AI edited industry that we're starting to see. So using AI for inspiration, sorting content, and organizing it is fine. I would not use this as your content marketing strategy. I did share a website checklist with Dan to distribute to everybody in the follow-up email. And certainly if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. here's my contact information. You can email me at Corey@Wanderweb, and then follow us on Instagram. We do send out a weekly business tip that involves search engine optimization or marketing for your small business each Monday morning. And we're happy to add you to that list. Should you wish, you can ask us to add you. Back to you, Dan.
Thank you so much, Corey. I'd want like really in depth, not only on like the SEO that people think of in terms of like just like keywords and things like that, but really like a lot of things like the metadata. I think a lot of people end up not understanding how important that kind of thing is.
Yeah, I
So,
think that it was really interesting to give. I usually have a whole screen of people, and so I was just looking at myself while I was presenting. It was it was interesting,
well,
but
now that you
yeah,
mention it,
hopefully we'll.
we will go ahead and do that. We do have a few questions in the chat that we'll get through first.
Perfect.
And then once we get through the questions in the chat, I will give everyone the ability to turn on their video and audio, and we can do a little Q&A that way. The first question that we have is from Mara, and the question is, do ads appear based on words searched? And I think that was when you were talking about search engine rankings having ads in them.
Yeah. Okay, so ads, specifically Google Ads, is I assume what we're talking about here.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. So the way Google Ads work is each keyword and phrase has a cost associated with it. The cost ranges and changes from day to day and season to season, but each keyword and phrase has a cost. So the cost might be $2 per click. I've seen them very expensive. I've seen them cheaper than that. So if say we're doing, let's go back to the artesian lavender goat milk soap, right? That's pretty specific. So it's probably a less costly AdWords. So let's say it's $2 per click. And as when you're placing the ad, what you do is you set your daily limit or your monthly limit on the amount of money that you're willing to spend on ads. And then Google kind of takes it and you get your daily spend. And after your spend, say you're spending $20 that day. So after 10 people have clicked on your ad, you disappear from the top of Google. But it's based upon AdWords, and you can pick multiple words that you're going to pay for, and each word is worth a different value.
I think that was a great answer. It really kind of succinctly explains kind of like how more niche you get with the Google AdWords, the better it can be for you, especially if there's volume.
Yes, especially. So for example, we have a balsam wreath company that we work with. And when we run their ads during the holidays, the spend for balsam wreaths, Christmas wreaths is very expensive. But if I were to run those ads in January, they'd be pennies, right? Or during the summer. So just considering the seasonality and when the ads have a lot of traffic or the words have a lot of traffic. Absolutely right, Dan.
We had another one here from an anonymous question. Have you ever heard of like fake reviews on Google used as spam, and what would you do to kind of combat that?
Yeah, fake reviews are a real issue. And so there are some stopgaps that Google has in place to recognize fake reviews. So they certainly recognize any promotions, and they will suspend those reviews. The other thing that Google looks for is if you suddenly get a large number of reviews, they will suspend your profile while they review it. If you see a review that you feel is fake, then you can challenge that review with Google.
There we go. If you see a review that's fake, just try to challenge it with Google, and hopefully the system works.
You can also challenge Google business pages. So if you see a Google business page for your region that really say is located in Florida, this is something that I've come up against, is I was optimizing a page for a client, and the page that was ranking the highest for the area was a Florida-based business. And they had gamed the system and slipped through Google's cracks. And so we just simply notified Google, hey, this is an incorrect listing.
And we have a question from Michael. Can you give a for dummies explanation on how long or what it might look like for someone to go from an email subscriber to a customer?
It depends on the product or service that you're selling. Typically the higher the cost of the product or service, the longer the incubation period for your customers. So it's dependent upon your specific situation. And if you're interested in staying on and going, we can talk about it in more specifics.
This a rather long question here in the chat from an anonymous participant. They were asking about kind of privacy wise in relation to like being able to keep their website away from competitors with the use and when competitors have access to things like the Wayback Machine.
Okay. Yeah. Before I answer that, can I add a little bit onto the email?
Yeah, sorry, my apologies.
No, I actually thought of something when you were asking that next question. I didn't want to forget it. So this is my bad, but I did want to answer this for Michael. Is typically some benchmarks that you should be looking for in your email is you should see at least a 25% open rate, depending on the type of content that you do. And in your emails, 20 to 40. 40 is like great. And a great click-through rate is 2%, like someone actually taking an action from that email. So, but my recommendation is looking back at your analytics over time and seeing how people have opened and converted or clicked through your email to sort of get a math equation. Like if you send 1,000 emails, then 5% of those people are going to open, and this is what you can count on, when you send your emails moving forward. Okay, privacy. The Wayback Machine is the Wayback Machine. I actually have used it, thank goodness, before when clients have lost their websites and we've recreated them for them using the Wayback Machine. So thank goodness that it exists. As far as privacy, you can put a privacy lock on your domain so people can't track your domain and purchase it out from underneath you. And you can also definitely put security on your website, like your security certificate. But I think I need to know a little bit more in order to provide some more clear direction.
I may have misread the question a little bit
Okay.
after a little more reading. I believe they're asking like, how do we keep someone like the Wayback Machine or ChatGPT or Google Bard from using their website as data, essentially? And
Oh,
would that be something that could interfere with the SEO?
So my recommendations, there's no real answer for this yet. Everything that's on the internet is indexed, and we really don't have control over that. What you can do is you can put a copyright on your website. It doesn't need to be a registered copyright or it's just a simple copyright with the date range of the content of your website from when you created it to the current year. And that should cover you from plagiarism, from someone plagiarizing your website. However, the way Google is moving and the way search is moving is using content from websites to answer question queries. People are asking more queries in the form of a question to Google, like, hey, Google, how far is it from Sacramento to Tallahassee, right? And so if that's on your website, Google very likely will give that as an answer in the search engine. So there's no real way, if you want your site to be indexed, to prevent it from being used by Google and other people.
And it looks like we had another question, and this is in a little more about specific page builders in WordPress. So Elementor versus Beaver Builder versus other ones. Does one have an SEO edge over the other? This person has heard that Elementor Pro is a little heavier. It might slow down the website a little bit. And they were just kind of wondering about your opinion in regards to these things.
Yeah, I have a really strong opinion. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Beaver Builder. It doesn't play well. Elementor plays a little bit better with other plugins, but still has some cross, application functionality considerations, where you might have a plugin that isn't compatible with the most recent version of WordPress with Elementor and all of the things working together. And that in those cases, you could pull in a developer like us. But in general, my recommendation is Elementor. That's the page builder that we use, and we use it for a very good reason. Very few clients do I use Elementor Pro for. I haven't found that it's necessary in order to get the results. Elementor Pro does have some nice bells and whistles, but again, you don't necessarily need that to meet your goals unless it's a very specific thing that you can only get with Elementor Pro. So I would caution you from going heavy on your website. Most websites are slowed down by images and additional plugins, not Elementor Pro.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and promote everyone to a panelist, which will allow everyone to speak. That'll take me just 1 second. And then while I'm doing that, we did have one other question. We had another question and a few more coming in the chat.
Sure.
But this one is from Moriko. Is there a way to accelerate the Google ranking on a business page or a business?
So if you're looking for some quick wins while you're waiting for search engine optimization to work, I do have some recommendations. So the first thing I'll say is the business you have today is the result of the work you did 6 months ago when it comes to search engine optimization and marketing. Okay. If you're looking for some really quick wins to drive traffic while you're waiting for your SEO to catch up, I do recommend ad strategy. And it depends on it depends on your customer base, whether Google ads are right for you, Facebook ads, or Instagram, or something along those lines.
All right, and then it looks like we have Carrie. I'm trying to add other folks as well. If you'd like to talk, feel free to accept the promotion to panelist. Corey, if you don't mind, we can stop sharing the screen and allow. There we go. And just to continue on with questions we have in the chat, how do you optimize your website for viewing on iPhones and Android phones?
Okay, so I need a little bit more information about what page builder you're using and what platform. Like, are we looking at WordPress or Wix? But typically, all the platforms that are out there have a mobile responsive setup now, where you would actually maybe make some tweaks to your website to make it mobile optimized. Typically, what Google recommends, best practice right now, is mobile first design, meaning design in the mobile size on your screen and then create the desktop size to match.
And anyone can feel free to unmute themselves at any time and ask a question. But if we don't have anyone to volunteer, we do have a few more in the chat still.
I'm happy to answer like specific things if you have some specifics that you'd like to discuss.
We'll go with Harry's question in the chat. Does Google include a text? Does Google include text in a drop-down menu used in FAQs, or is that not visible in Google for SEO purposes because it's in that kind of hidden menu or drop-down?
Yeah, so using something, remember I mentioned schema, which is a type of technical coding in the back end of your website, does allow FAQs to be indexed. However, I do recommend that you make your questions an H2 or an H3 and have a keyword in each one of those questions to make sure that Google understands. If it's really good content that your customers need to see, then I probably would pull it out of frequently asked questions or use it in addition to frequently asked questions as part of your core copy of your website. Does that answer the question fully?
I think so. And aside from, we have one more in the chat. Aside from updating your website with new products, how frequently do you recommend other updates such as blog posts, etc., to help with SEO?
Yeah, I think every business, again, is different because it's dependent upon the customer, but I typically love to see at least a monthly piece of blog content. And that doesn't mean it has to be fresh content. It can be refreshed content from your existing posts that you just kind of update, change the date on, and make it current. Google loves that because it shows that your content is valuable and you're updating it so that it's consistently current.
All right. And that was the last question that we had in the chat. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A, or you can always go ahead and unmute. And if we don't have any more questions, we can always wrap up a little early.
I saw Emma just asked a question about how important a blog is for visibility.
Oh, I didn't see these ones
That,
down here in the chat.
yeah,
We will be sending out the recording and the slide deck, as well as the checklist that Corey mentioned after the webinar. And yeah, but Emma asked, how important is a blog for website visibility?
mhm. So there's a lot of different ways that you could answer this, but what I will say is if you have a good search engine optimization strategy combined with a good content strategy, the average increase in search traffic on year 3 is 40%. So combining those two strategies together, creating content that you have a good solid syndication strategy for, as well as making sure that your website is up to date and doing all of those off-page things that we talked about, those local search engine tactics for location businesses. I think the first year is 9%. The second year is 12% on top of the 9%. And then by year 3, it's 40% on top of the 9 and the 12%. Like it really does grow upon itself. And so I really like to use blogging in a very strategic way. So creating content just to put it out is not a way to use your business time. You know, we're busy. We have 1,000 things to do as business owners, and we wear all these hats. And so if you're going to create blog content, my recommendation is you really have it planned out, and it's strategically planned in a way that it is rolled out and you know what you're doing months in advance, right? You've got a plan in place. So like say a product-based business, you probably should be really thinking about Christmas in the summer, right? Like really get ahead of that stuff.
We have another one here in the chat from Michael. I think this is a really good question. At what point does it make sense to add a search bar to your website, or does that really make sense at all? And by creating that convenience, I'd imagine people would spend less total time on our website, which would hurt SEO.
Okay. Excuse me. So my recommendation about a search is put it there if your customers will use it. If your viewers are going to use it, put it there. If they're not going to use it, it's extra. You don't need it. Google looks at time on site, but they also look at the customer journey. And there's a lot of algorithmic intuition in Google that will look at the way a customer comes in and the flow that they go through. And so I would propose, we never know what the algorithm is, but I would propose that Google would probably be looking at the flow of a journey and if it made sense. And if they were quickly going through multiple pages and did it in 5 seconds, that doesn't make sense, right? But if someone goes from your home page to your FAQ page, opens a couple FAQs and goes to your contact page, even if they're only on your site for a couple minutes or 30 seconds, that's a good, solid user journey that makes sense. So Google probably wouldn't ding you for that. What they would ding you for is if they got to your website, landed on your website and they saw that they were in the wrong area and they left immediately, what Google's going to say is, wow, I gave them that answer for this keyword. I'm taking note because that's not the right answer for this keyword with that search intent, right? That's how search engine optimization works. All Google wants is people to come to Google to do searches. And so they want to give the best answers so people keep coming back and using Google so Google can make money. Same with Facebook. All people on Facebook want is people to stay on Facebook, right? All people want on all the Instagram people want is you to stay. It's the same people, but they just want you to stay on Instagram, right? So just be thinking about that. Like, so there's ways that you can get around it, but I don't recommend doing that. I recommend doing what your customers are going to like, because eventually any games that you're playing, Google's going to catch up to you. Not
Yeah,
that you were trying to play a game, but that's just a general rule of thumb that I have.
if you make it hard for your customers to use your website and they don't come back, Google notices
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah. They
Uh,
yes, they watch where you go, what you do. Is they watch what your friends do and how close you are to them in proximity. It's crazy.
Michael also asks, how does one choose the theme for the website with there being so many choices?
Yeah.
And does the theme affect SEO?
Okay. If you're a DIYer, my recommendation is pick the theme you're going to use, and that will work for you, right? So for us, we use a pro theme that we purchased when I first opened the agency. It's called Astra. I'm a huge fan of it, but there's Divi, there's all kinds of them out there if you're looking on WordPress. Um, what I would look at is certainly how heavy the theme is, how slow or fast it is. Look for some reviews there, but Astra or Divi are both great. Um, but truly just if you have something and you'll use it, that's the thing that you should be doing right now.
Yeah, I think that was a great question as well.
Mm.
Uh, we don't have any other questions in the chat. We probably have time for one or two more questions. Uh, in the meantime, while we wait for another question to roll in, I want to thank you again, Corey, for presenting today. I feel like it was very interesting, very a lot deeper than I think people might realize. SEO has a lot of different facets.
Mm. It's fun though. It's a blast for us data geeks.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll be sending out the recording sometime tomorrow with the slide deck and the handout. And thank you again, Corey, and I hope everyone has a good night. Bye.